Welcome. My name is Mary Vic. I am a counselor and a recreation therapist here at the Alzheimer Group. For those who are joining us for the first time, here is a little background about AGI. Alzheimer Group is a charitable organization that supports families and individuals living with dementia. Our services include activities for people living with dementia, individual and family counseling, support groups, educational courses, and workshops. Lectures such as this one are made possible by the generous support of the Losner Learning Center in the Lindsay Memorial Foundation. Before we begin, please note that while the chat feature is unavailable, there is a Q&A space for you to ask questions. You may write your questions at any time throughout the presentation, and we will address them at the end. So today we are honored to have Dr. Nancy Mayo, a distinguished James McGill Professor, Department of Medicine in the School of Physical and Occupational Therapy, McGill University. Trained originally as a physical therapist, Dr. Mayo holds a PhD in epidemiology and biostatistics. She leads a research program on function, disability, and quality of life in Canada's vulnerable populations, producing more than 350 scholarly works. Dr. Nancy Mayo has a strong preoccupation with improving people's capacity to move. To this end, she has developed technology and a program focusing on walking as therapy and has co-founded PhysioBiometrics Inc, dedicated to the development of accessible technologies for people with physical and cognitive vulnerabilities. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Nancy Mayo.
Great, thank you. I'm going to share my screen. Great. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Perfect. So great. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. This is a topic that I think is very important to me as a person who is aging, and very important to most of my clients that I saw as a physical therapist, and important to everybody who has the capacity to walk. So we titled this talk, Walking Towards Wellness. And I added, it's something for everyone. And I think we have to consider that people aren't excluded because of whatever particular health condition or challenge they have from walking the best they can. And we use the term walk best to indicate walking better, faster, longer, and stronger. I want to start by showing you a little graphic that indicates all of the things that go on in the brain. And no matter what reason people have for a brain dysfunction, it affects gait. It affects walking. This is obviously for Parkinson's and stroke and multiple sclerosis, and even kids with autism, and kids with cerebral palsy, and also people that have cognitive challenges, because the workings of the brain are not just confined within the skull. They affect how people move their feet forward and how people walk. So any problem going on in the brain is going to affect how people walk. But walking, in fact, improves the brain. And there's a lot of research that talks about exercise improving the brain. And one of the most potent exercises to improve the brain or physical activity is actually walking. So that's what we want to talk about today, is really this kind of circle where anything going on in the brain is going to have a negative effect on walking, but you can counteract some of that by improving the walking. And what we want to do is to show how this can be done easily. So there's a lot of, terminology that's used around walking. We often use the expression, we can talk the walk and walk the walk. You really have to, stop talking about doing something and actually do something. So this is how, in general, scientists and researchers and clinicians talk about walking, talk about mechanics. And that would be true even for other activities like sports. Anybody that plays a sport, there's a mechanic. A golf swing is mechanical, tennis is mechanical, bowling is mechanical. So there are mechanics, and mechanics are essentially, it's called gait, and it means how well you walk. And it's related to how well the joints move and your posture. And that is directly affected by the brain. Anytime there's the slightest disruption in the brain, whether it's even things like depression or anxiety or depression or fatigue or PTSD, it affects that gait, how well you walk. And the other thing that we worry about is what we call speed and stride. And you hear that all the time, you have to keep up, walking faster. So that is related to how fast you walk and how big a step you can take. That is largely affected by mechanics. And the other topic we speak about are what we call daily steps. And that's really how much you walk. So and you've all heard about step count and, walking bouts. Do you walk for 5 minutes or 10 minutes? So what we want to link in today is the importance of mechanics to getting you to walk in a functional way so that you can leave your house and go and do things, but also that you participate in activities that require you to walk to a certain outside and how much you're able to walk, how long you're able to walk. So we're going to talk about these three things related to walking. So everybody gets very concerned about something called gait speed. And gait speed is fine. It's very important. It's actually been labeled the sixth vital sign. So just to refresh our knowledge on vital signs, if anybody is sick and goes to the hospital, they always measure your vital signs. And this is temperature, blood pressure, heart rate, respiratory rate, and oxygen saturation. I think we learned a lot about that during COVID, where everybody was monitoring their oxygen saturation. The sixth vital sign is considered gait speed. And why is it so important? This graphic illustrates why it's so important. So I want to focus you to the very bottom of the graphic where we have these numbers and we have M divided by S, which essentially is meters per second. And 0 meters per second we get, that's not moving at all. But if you move to the right-hand side, without necessarily worrying about the size of the numbers, the faster you walk, you can see that people who walk at the top end, which is 1.4 meters per second, can cross the street safely, like actually a 4-lane street in the time the light turns, remains green. So, this group of people who walk like that are very safe. They're very fast. You can see they're definitely independent and self-care, able to do household activities. They're often extremely fit. They can do, yard work, and are also less likely to be hospitalized or have an adverse event like such as a fall. So at the far end is activities that people who walk quite quickly are able to do. So if you move towards the middle of the range, which is like 0.8 to 1, that sort of defines somebody who's a community ambulator. They're perfectly fine walking around the community. But, even that level can indicate that there may be some cognitive decline in 5 years, and they may have some challenges. If you move into the slower end, 0.8 meters per second, you can start seeing that people have limited community ambulation. These are people who don't frequently leave their house unless they're accompanied. They have an increased risk of falls, and very slow walkers, you can see, don't leave the house and have functional impairments perhaps not able to do self-care. Also, it predicts mortality. But so that's why clinicians and physiotherapists and everybody are very prone to work on gait speed, to try and get people to be able to walk faster. So that's why it's called the sixth vital sign, because A, it's easy to measure, and it's very predictive of future health events, just like blood pressure is and oxygen saturation. So back to our walking brain is that ability to walk quickly doesn't happen without good gait mechanics. I can't just tell you, come on, hurry up, go, go, go. You have to have the appropriate gait mechanics in order to move your feet in a way that allows you to walk more quickly. So we've already talked about the effect of any brain disorder on gait. It's immediately manifested in gait. It changes gait mechanics. That changes the ability of the body to balance. It affects falls, and it also affects fatigue, because once your mechanics deteriorates, every step is a bit different. We don't have that rhythmical, every step the same, and that can be very fatiguing. So people who have challenges with gait mechanics will often find that walking is an effort and it's fatiguing. And that, of course, will affect how much you walk. But how much you walk actually improves balance and fatigue and prevents falls, because every time you walk, particularly if you're walking with a good pattern, it's like doing an exercise. So instead of going to the gym and having to, do, 10 repetitions, you walk properly, and that improves your balance, helps with preventing falls, and helps with fatigue. And that can improve your gait mechanics. So it's this sort of circular effect that gait mechanics affects how much you walk. And if you stop walking, it's this negative effect or positive effect, depending on whether you're in the positive cycle or the negative cycle. So walking, all of these aspects are very important, but the gait mechanics is what is sort of the building blocks. And that's what we want to work on and explain today. So we talked about how much people are walking, and I'm sure everybody has heard about 10,000 steps a day. Everybody has to do 10,000 steps a day. Well, that magic number is not really based on strong science. And it's also challenging target for people with a chronic health condition, not to mention people who are, working and, raising families and things like that. Because if you thought of walking 10,000 steps a day, you'd actually have to walk for an hour and 40 minutes every day at a pace of 100 steps a minute. And in a few slides, I'm going to show you what a pace of 100 steps a minute is. Those of us who work in hospitals, we call that our hospital walk. So if you see people, running from one ward to the next, that's 100 steps a minute. It is quite brisk. So this is a big challenge for people to meet. And it isn't really even a science-based metric. So let's look at steps and the effect of age, because we know that age affects everything. There's nothing that we can do about age or aging. So if I look on this graph, and so on the bottom, we have age 60, 61, all the way up to 85. And on the vertical line, we have steps per day. And these are typical steps per day. And it actually comes from a very big survey in the United States where they measured steps per day on thousands and thousands of people. So you can see people who are 60 in this red circle, 50% of people who are 60 walk 6,000 steps. Obviously, some walk less and some walk more. But, if you think of that kind of as an average, they'll walk 6,000 steps. By 75, this has gone down to 3,000 just because of aging. So we can't combat age. So how much you walk is also, of course, linked to, as we showed in the graph before, it's linked to this. So if you reduce your walking with aging, it's because gait biomechanics changes, balance and falls and fatigue change, and you reduce your walking. And then there's this negative circle that you walk less, then you have less balance and your gait mechanics get worse. So this is the effect of aging. And we just have to be cognizant that we're not expecting our people who are 75 years old to be walking 10,000 steps a day. So how many steps should anybody take? So this little graphic, it's kind of moving up the step ladder, shows that people who walk under 3,000 steps a day are essentially considered sedentary. And this includes all steps. This includes the steps in your house and, just doing daily activities. The next band, we like to call it 3579. The next band is around the 3 to the 5 and, considered low active. But the heart is there because that is the evidence-based cut point for steps. That there's evidence for many, many populations of many, many ages that people who are able to walk, around 5,000 steps a day have tremendous health benefits. And so that's a more realistic target than the 10,000 steps a day, which would be considered somebody who is very active, probably somebody who is very athletic. So we're going to start talking about thinking about that range of steps and not setting an unrealistic goal that everybody has to walk 10,000 steps a day. Most older people, their joints won't like that anyway. Mechanics notwithstanding, you get arthritis once you're over 20 years of age, arthritis can creep in. So a lot of the reason for those steps is that, the joints are not going to tolerate that amount of wear and tear. So we're going to think about more between that 3,000 and 5,000 steps a day as your target. And many of you know that there are all sorts of technologies that you can wear that give you that tracking, pedometers, Fitbits, watches, and they're fun. And I encourage people to know your number. You don't have to meet it, but you should know it. So we talked about steps and we've talked about walking, and they're different. Most steps are just that. They're steps. They move the foot from one place to the other for the purposes of moving your body one place to the other. And they're usually very slow, under 60 steps per minute, usually done in the house, but they're not really walking, but they're steps. And if you wear a step counter, they'll count that. But fewer steps are dedicated to walking. And walking is a rhythmic, dynamic, aerobic activity of large muscles, and it's an activity that produces health benefits. And for that, you need to be able to walk at a faster pace and actually keep it up for a longer duration of time because it's rhythmic, dynamic, aerobic. Steps are those that you might take in your kitchen, going from the stove to the fridge. You don't get a rhythm. It's not dynamic. You're not using large muscles, and it's not producing tremendous health benefits. It's better than sitting, but the health benefits achieve when you are actually walking. So let's look at our steps here. So at the bottom of the pyramid, we have walking, and that's usually outdoors. And these are called cadence bands. And 120, 100 are, considered fast walking, brisk walking. But, you can walk between 60, above 60, 80. It's called slow and medium walking. The other ones, once you're less than 60, it's really stepping. It's usually indoors. So I don't think this will play, but I'm going to put on my metronome and I'm going to say, hopefully you'll hear it. And I'm going to give you an idea of what 60 steps a minute is. Can you hear anything? No, can't hear it. Okay, let me try this. Can you hear that? Okay, I'm going to clap. Okay, that's 60 steps a minute. Now, this is going to be 100 steps a minute. Sorry, I have to close this. So that is much faster. That is a much faster pace. So trying to keep that up for any duration of time requires very good gait biomechanics. You can't keep that pace up by just walking very sloppy. So our benefits of walking, as opposed to stepping, our benefits of walking are enormous. Walking is the most valued life activity that contributes to quality of life. And it's good for the body, but it's also good for the mind. There is a tremendous amount of literature supporting the benefits of walking for improving the mind, which includes not only cognition, but also mood and stress. So walking is a very good way of building reserve. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what reserve is. Reserve is gas in the tank. So, of course, those of us who have moved to electric cars don't have this problem anymore. But you can imagine that there's an amount of gas you have in your tank, and you can use it up. And once it's used up, are you going to get any more? So reserve means I can do some activities, but I've got more gas in the tank. If I had to do more, I still could. Versus I've used all my gas for activities of daily living, and I have no more gas to go out in the evening, to, do a special event, and that's reserve. So walking can build the reserve because it's not an exhausting activity. So it's kind of nudges, it kind of puts gas in the tank. So every time you go for a walk, it adds a little bit more gas to the tank. So the next day or a couple of days later, you find, you know what, I can take that walk and I still have energy for the rest of the day. So it's a very good way of putting gas in your tank. It also reduces stress. And there's probably nothing more stressful than worrying about your health. So going for a rhythmic, dynamic walk is known to reduce stress. It calms the brain. That's rhythmical walking is very calming for brain. It's being used with people who have post-traumatic stress disorder to sort of reset the rhythm of the brain. And it's also known to improve mood. There's lots of literature on walking and improving mood, depression, anxiety. So these are some of the benefits of walking. So what are the experts say that we should be doing? So the experts say 150 minutes accumulated over a week, which is approximately 20 minutes a day, but you have to do it for at least 10 minutes. It's no use doing a minute here, 30 seconds here. It's really bouts of 10 minutes. And this is because your cardiovascular system, your heart and your blood pressure and your respiration take time to adapt to the exercise and then find this as now this is my new normal. Okay, I'm doing really well. And then the next time you go, you can go a little higher. And that's the building the reserve. But it takes the system about 10 minutes to reach that steady state. So it's training. So the next time you benefit. So 20 minutes a day, bouts of 10 minutes. So one 20-minute walk or one 10-minute walk. or 2 10-minute walks, but you have to do it at that pace of 80 steps a minute or more. And 100 is optimal. So is that easy? Not all that easy. Sounds great for experts to sit around a table and come up with that. It's actually very hard to do. The reason is because many people cannot walk well enough because of biomechanics, because of the impact of the brain on gait biomechanics. So many people can't walk well enough to meet these targets and therefore gain the health and enjoyment and independence benefits of walking. And just taking more steps, just going for a walk with bad steps is not the solution, because poor quality steps are dangerous. Most falls occur when people are walking, and they occur because of poor biomechanics. It's very rare that somebody suddenly collapses. We call that fainting. That's fainting. That's not falling. You fainted, you know. But falling is because of the gait biomechanics. The other thing that happens is these poor quality steps are exhausting because they're not rhythmical and dynamic and using big, you're using small muscles, they're irregular, every step is awkward. And eventually this just makes people sit down in a chair. You know, it's too much effort to do this, and people become sedentary. So let's look at this falls, the poor steps and falls. Why do people fall? First thing is that, as I said, most falls occur while people are walking and they don't have good balance reactions. So poor quality steps, so it's a double whammy. You have poor quality steps because of what's going on in the brain, poor quality steps, and it affects your natural balance reaction. So somebody pushed you, you'd reach your hand out. But anytime there's something going on in the brain, that's slow. It doesn't happen necessarily. So they occur because of poor balance reactions and poor steps. A poor gait pattern also causes the foot to catch and scuff. So if people don't fall, they'll report their foot scuffs. And the foot scuffs several times a day. Particularly if you change surface. If you go from a hard surface to a carpet, you've tripped. If you go from a sidewalk onto grass, you trip. Also happens very often in a new environment where you're not used to it, where you usually walk, your brain adapts, and then suddenly you go visit somebody and they have a different kind of a carpet, or they have a different surface that you're walking on. So poor gait causes the foot to scuff, and that can cause a fall. Because as people age, and if they have any neurological issue going on in the brain, we stop working hard and we reduce our core strength. When you're young, you don't have to go to Pilates. You're picking up your kids, you're mowing the lawn, you're, pushing refrigerators out of the way to clean under, and you keep your core strength. The minute you stop doing very vigorous activities, your core strength reduces. And if you then become more and more sedentary, the first thing you lose is core strength. And core strength is what centers your body. Here's the core here, right? Is that if you don't have that, the top part falls over the bottom part. So poor core strength is a big issue for falls. Also weak legs. And that, of course, also comes with neurological damage. It affects everything related to the functioning of the body. If you're not walking and moving those feet, you get stiff, rigid feet that can't adapt to changing surfaces and changing weight shifts. It's like walking on bricks, and you're either on the brick or you're falling off the brick. So walking properly improves that mobility of the feet. Another feature, which has got nothing to do with the brain, is that some people just have unequal leg length. Sometimes it's because of hip damage, knee damage, spine damage, but anybody with unequal leg length needs to be very careful of that. And because look at that poor chair is going to fall over. So anything going on in the brain can change those good, strong legs into ones that are pretty wobbly. produces balance impairments, gait anomalies, and muscle weakness. Quickly produces a sedentary lifestyle, which has negative effects on the brain. So it's fuzzying up that brain because the body isn't doing anything. It also causes the legs to be much weaker, and then you're not walking, which causes even more problems at the brain. So this is this vicious circle. We want to fix this. We don't accept this as a natural way of being. We can fight this. So let's look at how we can fix it. So we've invented a program called Walk Best. And this is a program that, based on a lot of physiotherapy practice, that starts with walking, putting your heel first, pushing off, all of these different instructions, breathing, swinging your arms, not looking at your feet. And there's a whole list of things, a whole list of instructions. So by putting the heel first, this is what it does. It lengthens the stride, it changes the stoop posture, push off rolls the foot. I mean, look at this list. You know, this is what physiotherapists get excited about. But it's very therapeutic. Walking properly is very therapeutic. It allows you to do, if you take 1,000 steps, you're making 1,000 repetitions of straightening your knee, putting your heel first, standing up straight, good for your posture, breathing. You're taking 1,000 repetitions. If you walk 5,000 steps a day, you've done it 5,000 times. Your brain will change and adopt movements that are repeated 6,000 times or more. So you can see as you age and experience challenges because of neurological issues, that the brain very quickly adapts to this new normal, which is a bad new normal. And now the brain thinks that's normal. Shuffling along is normal. So in order to break the cycle, you got to really repeat this. And this is what this Walk Best is about. So why it's therapy is that if you walk this way, it already improves your mobility and your posture and your strength and your balance and makes you more flexible and gives you more confidence and it gives you more motivation and you feel safer. And it's therapy in every step and you can bypass the gym. But who can do this? Who can do this big list of exercises and activities I just showed you? We know very well that people with memory and concentration challenges find following these instructions difficult. We've been doing over 100 workshops out at one of the seniors' residences, and they keep saying, I can do it when you're there, but I can't do it if you're not there. And I don't remember, is it the heel first or the, so this is a challenge, all these instructions. So we came up with a technology. Can we use technology to help people with all of this list of instructions? And this is our heel to toe sensor. And what it is it mimics what a physiotherapist would do if you went in for gait training. It'd assess your gait and they'd say, okay, we're going to practice walking, put your heel first. And the therapist says that, and I've done this many years in my own clinical practice, and this is me shouting at the patient, heel first, heel first, heel first. And this simple strategy changes this stooped shuffling posture to one that's upright and striding. But the minute I stop shouting at the poor client, guess what? They walk out of the physiotherapy clinic exactly the same they walked in, because I can't give that continual feedback. So we asked whether technology could step in and do the job of continual positive feedback for a good step. And that was the basis of what we call our heel to toe sensor. So what it does is it harnesses the power of the brain to provide therapy in every step. You can see here, it's a little device that clips on the side of the shoe, and it detects and quantifies how good quality the step is. And if the step achieves a threshold for a good step, it sends a beep. And this auditory feedback stimulates the brain through the dopamine system. So it's not just practice, it's actually changing the brain by stimulating dopamine. And dopamine is a very powerful neurotransmitter. It's like oil for the brain. It not only improves, provides pleasure and improves mood, it changes cognition, memory, attention, and improves movement. So this sensor is not just a passive physical motivator. It is something that is linked to your brain through dopamine. And this is like practicing your tennis shot or your golf swing. You don't wear it all the time. You focus, practice a minimum of 5 minutes a day. Most of our clients love it and they use it more than that. But we want people to practice like you were going to practice tennis or whatever. So we're actually now looking for people who want to help us out in testing it, because we have a team at McGill, and I'm from PhysioBiometrics, and we hold the patent on this device, and we're looking for some people with cognitive challenges to test the heel-to-toe sensor, because we've already tested it in seniors and it works amazing, and in people with Parkinson's, and in people with multiple sclerosis. But we've never tested it in people that have cognitive challenges. But why not? Given, the background and the importance of walking and the effect of the brain on walking, why not try it in people with cognitive challenges? So we're looking to see if anybody would like to participate. So if you want to participate, you have to let us know at Outcomes Are Us, or Molly. She said she would help us out. Obviously, it's research, so the person has to consent. We've made it easy. The consent form is quite simple, and there's a few questions that they'll have to answer about the consent form to make sure that they understand what they're consenting to. They're not consenting to take a space shuttle to the moon. They're consenting to walk. There's some questionnaires about health and function. Most of these can be filled out by somebody who knows you well, knows the person well. There's some motor and cognitive tests to do, nothing extraordinary. You have to walk with our sensor, so we measure how you walk with the sensor. You have to learn how to use it, and that's why it's important to have somebody to help you, a spouse or son or daughter or friend who can, it's not hard to use. You stick it on your foot and press a button. It's not really very hard. Take it home for a month, walk with it, redo the question, come back in a month, redo the questionnaires and tests, and most important, tell us about your experience. How did you like it? How did you hate it? How can we make it better? So there's some references we just added in case you want to look at a bunch of articles, but essentially we're really looking to see, can something like this help people with cognitive challenges just as well as it helps people with other sources of neurological challenges. So I'm going to stop here and talk to you about questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mayo. That was really, for me, it was like really interesting. Learning about like the quality of your movement actually really impacts you.
Yeah.
It's that now I'm like more aware, okay, am I walking proper? I don't have to reach for the 10,000 steps, because for me that would be impossible.
Yeah, exactly.
But if I could do between 3,000 to 5,000 by walking properly, that is my motivation.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. So I'd like to ask our participants in today's webinar, if you have any question, please feel free to write it in the Q&A button that you will find at the bottom of your screen. But I have some questions in here, Dr. Mayo, from one of our clients. She said, I lack the motivation to get walking. I realize my husband with Alzheimer's needs more exercise. However, I'm tired and lack motivation or cannot build the habit. based on your experience, what suggestions, tips do you have to get someone start to walk, like in terms of because we
Right.
always know that it's the first step is the hardest, right?
Yes. There's a song about that. Yeah. Absolutely. That is a very common issue that every single person has. So one of the things that we found with the heel to toe sensor is that and people try it, and we've heard it many times before. Oh, this is addictive. I could get addicted to that, because the sound of the beep when you walk is like, oh, okay, I'm doing it, and it's rhythmical. So if you walk nicely and properly, you hear beep, 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 and it just makes you go, just makes you continually to want to go. So we are very interested in testing it on both the caregiver and the person with dementia. That would be fine, because if you're both not enjoying it, then it works for everybody. I mean, we use it a lot for just people who are aging. So this is something that is easily sort of helped by first having a goal. So, you can say I need to walk 3,000 steps or 5,000, but why do you need to walk 3,000 steps or 5,000 steps? It has to have some sort of goal. So if you can make a reflection and say, well, what is my goal? And we talk about walking goals. Well, I want to be able to, walk 3,000 steps or 5,000 steps because of health. Yeah, right. But, usually it's because I want to be able to go to the shopping center and not have to use a wheelchair. We hear that all the time. Or if you look in the future, I'd really rather not have to use a walker. I'd really not like to be in a wheelchair. I would really like to go for a walk in the park. I would really like to be able to. So if you reflect on something that is meaningful to you, then you say, I would like to be able to. I hear it that people want to go on vacation and they just think, oh my God, I have to walk from here to there, or even going in a train station, walking to the train, walking to the plane. Yes, you can take a wheelchair. So you have to have some sort of goal, but the goal has to be not just like 5,000 steps. It has to be a reason. And why we invented the sensor is because it's motivating. So our fix is have a goal. Don't set anything too lofty. You can build up steps a day by 1,000 steps a day. People who are very exhausted, we recommend only 100 steps a day. And that's walking from one end of a block to another end of the block. So, it's just a matter of setting very small little incremental goals, but our sensor is motivating.
Okay. I think that's a really good way of looking at it, right? Like, I mean, as you said, like, it's because sometimes we have this like goals of like, looks like 3,000 sounds overwhelming.
Yeah.
But if you're giving us permission to just start with 100 steps, but 100 quality steps.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Make every step count.
So here's a question here. How many Parkinson patients have benefited? What percent find improvement? Does it help those with advanced Parkinson's? Someone who usually walk with a cane. So.
Yeah. So we've done a relatively small trial. Well, we've done a couple of studies. We did a very small, in research, we call it proof of concept. So our first study, we just took 6 people. They all improved immediately. The next one, we did a smaller study in the middle of COVID. So you can imagine how easy that was to do. And that's about to be published. And we had, I guess, around who completed the full study, we had about 14 people with Parkinson's. Every single one of them improved. And the people in the control group, 0 improved. Because with a chronic condition, if you don't do anything different, nothing's going to change. You have to do something dramatically different. And particularly Parkinson's, the dopamine. Because Parkinson's, the primary effect on the brain dries up dopamine. So the beep really drives the dopamine to continue to get the beep. It's not going to cause you to run off and decide to play the piano, but it'll motivate you to keep walking. And then of course that's a positive cycle. The more you walk, the better you walk, and vice versa. when you have an all or none study, it's pretty dramatic. We have other, clients who have continued with the Parkinson's, and we have found we purposely chose people who were very severe and people who were quite mild. Both the most severe and the mild person made the greatest gains.
Okay.
And we had people that were walking. We had at least one or two people that needed a cane. We have a study in Parkinson's now going on, which recruits people in Parkinson's. If you want to know about that, you just email us at Outcomes or Us. We take a video of somebody. We're not going to give a sensor to somebody who we feel is unsafe. We take a video. We make sure they're safe, because it's not like you're coming to the clinic. You're getting a sensor in the mail. And, it's different than what we're going to do here if we recruit people that have more cognitive challenges.
Okay. So in here it says, I would like to do this with my husband who has dementia, but walking with him would probably be a challenge because he already spends a lot of time sitting. So his musculature is frail and he is 82. How could I help him with it?
So again, if you join our study, obviously we have criteria. So the person has to be able to understand what the study is about, or if you're the legal guardian. So if somebody's a legal guardian, then and that the caregiver consents, then that's fine. The person needs to be able to walk independently. Not necessarily do a lot of walking outside, but is able to walk independently. And then it's just a matter of, you put on the sensor and encourage them to make it beep, as opposed to listening to those instructions. The reason I didn't spend a lot of time going over all those instructions, you're not going to take somebody with cognitive challenges, even very mild ones, and a big list of things to do. And that's what the sensor does. We're trying to replace it. We don't know whether it'll work. And that's to a certain extent what we're trying to find out, is that who does it work for? What kind of cognitive challenges do people need in order to make it work or make it not work? Or, we don't know, but we don't want to give up. We don't want to say, okay, right, no, we're not dealing with that population. We're only going to deal with people who have stroke or, So it's a challenge that we don't know.
Okay. So I have here, Dr. Mayo, from a caregiver. Since his fall last year, my husband walks very cautiously. What are your recommendations for helping him overcome this?
Right, exactly. So here is this cycle. So now the person has fallen, they have no confidence. So, and the no confidence makes them make very terrible steps, which makes it worse. So what we're trying to do is to get people to take better quality steps. So one of the challenges, of course, is that, send somebody to physiotherapy. Anybody that has any cognitive burden is not going to be able to participate in what the physiotherapist says. So that's why we invented our technology, is to say, we think that this will encourage the good step. They'll want to make it beep. And if they make it beep without me telling you, put your heel first, do this, do that, do this, do that. Obviously, it's good for the caregiver to have, the idea of it. But that's what we would recommend, is we would recommend trying to use technology to break that vicious cycle.
Thank you. I had to unmute myself because there's a construction on top of me. I hope it's not so. Yeah. So here's another question, Dr. May. I believe this question came from a professional caregiver or someone who works in a long-term care. So he or she is basically asking, what resources are needed to implement this walking program in a long-term care? If you have any ideas or suggestions that can.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, absolutely. You can email us. We are very interested in working in this setting. It's just a matter of having, staff that are willing to walk with clients or caregivers. I know in many long-term care, they have physiotherapy, occupational therapy aides that can come in. And it's just a matter of clipping the device onto the shoe and having them walk and try to make it beep. The sensor itself is not expensive, but there's a whole bunch of data that comes with it. Some people want the data, some people don't. So, a lot of private physiotherapy clinics who are going to be using it want the data. right? Because they can show it to their clients and they can use it, but it works just fine clipped onto the shoe and beeping. So if your center has purchasing power, buy 5 or 6 of them and try it, but you need somebody to walk with the person, and they need to be able to have it's just minutes of practice. They don't have to wear it all day long, but somebody would have to go with them, encourage them to make the beep, and then get them to beep. You've heard me say, I think walking is a human right. I think anybody that has the capacity to put one front of the other has the right to be able to walk. Walking is good for the body. It's good for the brain. It's good for all parts of the body, posture, breathing, urinary tract. Spend the whole day sitting, you get urinary challenges, you get posture, you forget how to breathe, so anything that breaks that cycle.
Okay.
You want to run a pilot? Let us know.
So, do am I missing anything? I'm trying to look at the list. Last question. So how to help improve walking of person who is stiff and leans forward into one side? Can you recommend warm-up exercises to ease the
Yes.
over stiffness? So.
Yes. So when we were looking at this for people with cognitive challenges, we looked at all of the websites on dementia, and they have 1,000,000 exercises. Interestingly, nobody talks about walking. I think this is sort of like the elephant in the room there,
Mm-hmm.
So there are many excellent videos. The McGill University Health Center through McGill Cares has excellent videos for exercises. When we also have a Walk Best program that incorporates exercises that are just targeted specifically for walking. On our website, which is PhysioBiometrics Inc., we have these exercises in a form of a calendar, but of course the year is running out. And we're producing another calendar, which is a perpetual calendar, so that, it doesn't matter if you start in July. They're all listed. All exercises that help with walking, because most people don't really want to sit there and lift some dumbbells, like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. We found that people really want exercises that are focused for function. So we have a workbook that's actually free from our website that you can download free. It has a smaller set of exercises. There's a calendar that you can that is available for purchase, and in a few months there'll be a perpetual calendar, and it has the exercises. There's a QR code. You can look them in a video if you want. But all of the dementia societies and Alzheimer's societies around the world have excellent exercises.
Okay. So your website again, Dr. Mayo?
PhysioBiometrics.com.
Okay. Oh, one last question. Does the subject have to walk at least 10 minutes at a time?
No.
So if anyone is okay.
No. And in fact, we actually encourage people or recommend that you actually start very slowly, because what happens is once you start making that strong move, heel, you're using muscles you've never used before. So we often start with a minute, try it for a minute, and as with anything, quit while you're still having fun. Don't make it a chore. So walk for a minute, the person's enjoying it, you say, okay, good, well, we'll do it a little later, we'll do another minute later on. But the minimum practice, once you're used to it and your muscles have adapted to the new movements, is, a minimum of 5 minutes twice a day.
Okay, that's really nice. So again, just for our viewers today, so the website is PhysioBiometrics.com.
Yeah.
So, and for those of you who are also interested to be a part of this study, you can contact us here at AGI 514-485-7233, or you could email or visit the website. Is it in your website as well, Dr. Mayo?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's all the questions that I have here. Again, thank you very much, Dr. Mayo, for a lovely presentation. I learned a lot.
It's my pleasure.
I'm now excited to apply it and make sure that I really have a quality walk. my movements.
Yes, good idea. Everybody.
So thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, again, if you have any questions, please feel free to call us here at AGI at 514-485-7233 or email us at info@agiteam.org. So again, thank you very much and have a lovely rest of the week.
Great.
Have a happy Canada Day. Have a great
Yes.
long weekend.
Yes. Yes.
And
Thank
walk
you.
best.
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.